In an interview with Vice, Jordan Peterson said, "We don't yet know if men and women can work together. It's only been about 40 years and it's been a disaster." Many people saw that as absurd. They disagree with Jordan Peterson. Of course, many people agree with him as well. But it was presented in such a way that, what is he talking about? Of course, men and women can work together. But now we see this story from Glamour. Male bosses are ignoring women colleagues after Me Too. This is a problem. Jordan Peterson brought up interesting points about makeup, about what women wear. And let's think about what the workplace was presumably like before Me Too. Men were handsy, perhaps. Not all of them, but some of them. Some men were harassing their female employees. And there were some very high-profile individuals, males, who were outed for being predators. In some instances, it wasn't always towards women. You had Kevin Spacey, as one individual. Now that the Me Too movement has, shined a light on these bad practices, we're left with an inverse problem. Men don't want to work with women. This is another story. I have done maybe 4 or 5 where every single time they do some kind of poll, it gets worse. Now, this is serious. Listen, according to leanin.org, 60% of male managers say they're uncomfortable participating in common workplace activities with a woman, putting promotions at stake. It would seem that, in the past videos I've covered, men don't want to be alone with women. They don't want to go out for drinks after work with women. They don't want to mentor women. And now they're not even comfortable in common workplace activities. So was Jordan Peterson right? I don't know. But what I will say is, if men are avoiding women because of Me Too, then maybe the answer is, maybe he is onto something. Maybe there's going to be some dramatic changes for men and women to actually be able to work together. Because certainly this is untenable. How do we get to a point where men and women can just work together? Was it, I don't know. Was it better before Me Too? I think not. You had, I can't remember the guy's name from NBC or whatever, who he had a button to lock his door remotely. Yeah, weird guys. So let's read through the story and we'll look at some of the data. Before we do that, make sure you head over to timcast.com/donate. If you want to support my work, I really do rely on you guys, especially considering in the summer months, viewership goes way down and we are expanding. So there's a monthly donation option. There are cryptocurrency options. I have a physical address, but of course, you can just share this video and click the like button. That's one of the most effective ways to actually help. Tell YouTube it's a video worth watching. But let's see what they have to say. The story starts as a bit of a narrative saying, "One of my first jobs out of college had me assisting a publisher who frequently shared sensitive company information with me as I drafted memos and reports, which meant we often had to close the door to his office. He'd dictate what he needed to do, and we'd move on with our day. Occasionally, we'd do it over lunch. I never once felt uncomfortable, and I'm pretty sure he didn't either. Because I was good at my job, the publisher eventually promoted me. This was almost 2 decades ago, and much has changed for women and men at work. The most pervasive shift, of course, has been spurred by the Me Too movement, which not only has managed to hold power-abusing men accountable for their actions, but has also changed the norms so many women have silently faced in the workplace that range from farming to fashion. They say, but with any movement, especially one that exists to empower women, there has been a backlash. And one particular facet is the idea that Me Too has scared some men away from interacting with junior-level female colleagues. Well, let's talk about why that is real quick. If you do something that makes a woman uncomfortable and you don't realize it, you don't know why it's wrong, and no one ever told you why it's wrong, you could have your life destroyed, your career destroyed. So think about this. The way I always frame it is, and it's not a perfect analogy, but if you could buy a lottery ticket, and if you won, your life would be completely destroyed, would you buy that ticket? Most people are going to say no. The chances that, you working with a woman or being alone with her in a room will result in a false accusation or something, destroying your career, slim to none. But because of these high-profile stories, you have many men who are scared saying, I'm not even going to risk it. What's the point? Do you really trust that person? But it's not even an issue of trust. It's an issue of what if you say something that is considered inappropriate? So here's another example I've used. I can walk up to a man and let's say there's a guy and he's wearing a brand new 3-piece suit. I can go, whoa, damn, that is a nice suit. Looks amazing. Where'd you get that? Wow, must have been expensive. Think about what happened if a man walked up to a woman and went, ooh, damn, look at that dress. That is amazing. Where'd you get that? That must be expensive. Different cultural contexts. A guy can compliment another guy's clothes because there's no implication of sexuality. But with a woman, When you go, ooh, look at that dress, it's an issue about her looks, and that is culturally sensitive. So think about what that means. Think about if you walk up to a guy and you put your hand on his shoulder, you pat him on the back and say, good job in that meeting, brother. That was fantastic. Think about what happens if you walk up to a woman, pat her on the shoulder, pat her on the back and say, good job in that meeting, sister. You killed it. She's going to say, why is he touching me? Maybe not. The point is, there are different norms between the genders. And thus, you're going to have many men saying, I don't know what I can or can't do. I always, compliment my buddy's looks and his hair. And when he's coming out of a meeting, you got to look sharp. You got to look like you're prepared. He had a fabulous suit. Sometimes they'll even help their buddy put their tie on, get it straight. Can you do that with a woman? Maybe. Maybe not. You could get in serious trouble if you go anywhere near touching a female compared to a male. So these are serious considerations that are going to result in men who are good people who don't want to work with women, not just out of a fear of false accusations, but because there is an absolute difference between what is acceptable between men and between different genders. But let's read the data. According to new research released today by Leanin.org and SurveyMonkey, 60% of male managers say they're uncomfortable participating in common workplace activities with a woman. A 32% increase from research done last year on the topic. The data found that senior level men are 12 times more likely to hesitate before having one-on-one meetings, 9 times more likely to hesitate to travel with a junior woman for business, and 6 times more likely to hesitate to go to a work dinner with a junior woman. 36% of men also say they've avoided mentoring or socializing with a female coworker because they were nervous about how it might look. Let's talk about how it might look. What happens if you're a male, you mentor a female? What happens if someone sees that and then starts spreading rumors? Oh, I saw them leaving. They were at a bar together. When I worked at Vice, rumors were flying about one of the senior level staff and one of his lower level staff being seen at a bar outside of work hours. And of course, guess what everyone said? It was an affair. What do you think happens then when the young woman her career is threatened because of the rumors? She's made to look like a bad person. You will find that sometimes, not always, they say, oh, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. He's pressuring me. It doesn't have to be about assault. It can be about, he's too aggressive and he's bad, and that can still be damaging for reputation. Would not happen between guys. You see two guys out at a bar and they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw John and Jim over at the bar last night. Oh yeah, I think they were talking about the new spreadsheets. The cultural context is extremely, it's different between men and women. And this is why I think Jordan Peterson brought up a really interesting point. You don't have to like Jordan Peterson. You don't have to agree. You don't have to think he's right. But he does bring up an interesting point. He talked about women wearing certain clothing in the workplace, clothing that's meant to be attractive. Should men and women not wear attractive clothing because of what it might, entail between the interactions? It's not fair for a woman to be subjected to any kind of harassment. But at the same time, what if it's a guy giving his buddy a pat on the back? Can't do the same thing for a woman. So you then enter the workplace and you have different rules for different people. It can't just be one set of rules that people can understand. So maybe the answer is simple. Treat women differently. But I don't know if that's the right answer either, because now look what we're seeing. Yeah, men are saying, I'm not going to be alone with a woman. I don't want to, I don't want to get, it'll look bad, right? They say the problem. Most managers are male, and their fear is prohibiting women from proving themselves and moving up at work. Well, I think that is a problem. It will likely change in the future, but let me just suggest to women, I know it's not a complete solution, but I would recommend to anybody, not just women, start your own business. If you've got people standing in your way and they won't interact with you for whatever reason, be it an honest, fear, like, of looking bad or being accused of something, well, you know what? It's on you. It's your responsibility. Maybe you're not going to move up in your job, but maybe you can start your own firm. Maybe you can start your own business. I know it's not easy. It's not. And maybe it's not fair either. But I'll tell you this. If there is a wall in your way that you cannot overcome, the solution is probably going to be to turn around and find a different path. It sucks, I don't know of anyone who's been promoted who hasn't had one-on-one conversations with a superior. That's from Sheryl Sandberg. Women need that one-on-one time to get the mentorship and sponsorship they need to succeed. Sandberg knows this well. She goes on to talk about working with Mark Zuckerberg. But let's go down to the conclusion here, and I want to pull up some of the actual stats. As Sandberg put it, people believe that not harassing us is enough right now, but that's not true. Not harassing us is not enough. You also need to not ignore us. It's really interesting, right? So actually, let's read this back. Let's get a better bit of context in that final thought. Being more or less invisible to a male superior is better than being uncomfortable, right? In theory, sure, but considering the vast majority of managers and leaders are men across most fields, the fact that women aren't getting the attention they need to succeed because men are afraid isn't doing them any favors. Ultimately, this is about closing the gender gap at work from the entry level all the way up to the top, said Rachel Thomas, president of Lean In. When companies employ more women, sexual harassment is less prevalent. And when women hold more leadership roles, company profits are higher and workplace policies are more generous. Supporting women makes companies stronger and safer. To get there, we need men to be part of the solution. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. There is no rule. You cannot force a man to go on private meetings with you, to promote you. I mean, like, the only real solution to anything that they actually propose in terms of, like, the earnings gap and things like this was, like, full-on government regulation and socialism. When they talk about the earnings gap, they literally do. Like, Vox.com openly acknowledges they're not talking about men and women working the same job. They're talking about female school teachers and male petroleum engineers, and they want those wages to be evened out. I'm not exaggerating. Vox.com wrote an article explaining this. I'm like, that's basically just socialism, giving everyone the same wage no matter what their job is. It doesn't make sense. But I don't want to get into that talk. Let's pop over to what we have here. This is from SurveyMonkey, how Me Too has impacted mentorship for women. This story keeps popping up. I think this is seriously the fourth or fifth time I've talked about how Me Too has negatively impacted women. Let's not forget, the Me Too movement has positively impacted women by putting away stopping a lot of the abuse and putting away these really nasty dudes who are doing really nasty things. They needed to be called out. But I think one of the things I often talk about is surface level solutions. So you have to think beyond your move, right? Play chess. I've been playing chess since I was as long as I can remember. I was very, very little. I was like 3 years old when my mom first started teaching me chess. Okay. You can't just make a move. If you make a move, what are the other moves? And as you try and think ahead, the variables increase exponentially. What that means is, in life, okay, you should think about it like a strategy game. If I do X, what are the likely results? It's much harder to predict in the real world as it is for chess because chess has finite moves, but this is predictable. Yes, there are going to be a lot of men saying, I do not want to be accused. If somebody says something about me that's not true, what if I make a mistake? Go back to my first point. What if I pat someone on the back as a friendly gesture and they take it the wrong way and then tell the boss and then everyone starts accusing me of being an abuser? Because I touched an elbow or put my hand on someone's shoulder or complimented their professional outfit like I would for any of my guy friends. You can't. In fact, you shouldn't do this, but there are dudes who pat each other's butts. Like in sports they do it, right? There are certain things where men feel more comfortable to be physical, to roughhouse. You can't do it with women. So maybe the lines have to be drawn. Maybe we're not there yet, but certainly it's going to have a backlash for women. And I go back to what Jordan Peterson said. Maybe this is another example of us finding out there's inherent troubles when men and women are working together. Again, well, actually, I'll say this. My overall opinion is I absolutely think men and women can work together. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think it becomes an issue when you have strangers working together, right? So I've worked with many females in small offices. Between 2 or 3 people, there's never been a problem, But what happens when you're in a company with 500 and you go down to HR and there's a woman or someone you don't really know? Now you've got some problems because, yeah, you've worked with them, you've seen them around the office, but you don't know what they find acceptable or not. You're not friends. You don't know how to interact properly. You might say something that has nothing to do with anything negative, and they might take it the wrong way and then complain about you, and thus we end up with situations like this. But again, to the other point I made earlier, let's say you do have, a lower level staff member who is the female or male, and you're a female, whatever, like opposite gender, and you go into the room and close the door. Then a lot of people are going to start murmuring, and then you've got a potential for chaos. So, you know what? There's a lot of data here. I'm not going to go through all of it just because there's seriously a lot. They ask how do people feel about these reports? And the biggest group is most people are not surprised. That's funny. In the last 2 years, have you heard anyone say men should spend less time with women in the wake of Me Too? Overwhelming no's. Of course not. No one would say that. Let's see. Let's go down. Do you think company leaders and high performers are held accountable when they harass someone? And sometimes is the biggest, but usually, rarely, and then rarely or never. So it's sometimes, then rarely or never. In your view, are the consequences of harassment more damaging to the harasser's career or more damaging to the victims? It's actually spread out really even, which is interesting. Most people lean towards the harassers, but for women, they think that it's more damaging to victims to come forward. Well, there you go. I mean, we've got problems. Look, men would assume the harasser's life is going to be ruined, but women would assume the victim's life is going to be, I didn't say ruined, but they're damaged their careers. So I'm not going to go through all the data points. Suffice to say, I think we've addressed a lot of the issue here. Well, you can let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, stick around. I'm going to have more segments coming up very, very soon on the podcast in a few seconds. For the rest of you on YouTube, it'll be at 1 p.m. And as always, you can go to timcast.com/donate if you want to help support my work. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you in the next segment.